You ever have one of those mornings where everything feels a little too quiet, like the universe is holding its breath? That was the kind of morning I walked into. It started normal enough. I woke up early, stretched, pulled on my running shoes, and headed out before the sun had fully risen. I ran my usual loop, down Pasture Lane and then around the edge of Riverhill Mall. I always liked finishing there. Something about that early morning mall buzz was oddly peaceful. The bakeries just opening, vendors wheeling in racks of goods. That quiet hum of fluorescent lights flickering on overhead. It's comforting in a way. Brooke had texted me the night before. If you're going to be by Riverhill, can you grab strawberries, some basil, and that sourdough from the bakery upstairs? Love you. I texted back a thumbs-up emoji. Didn't think anything of it. She was always asking for random stuff. It was her thing, little rituals she picked up from lifestyle blogs or cooking shows. If we're going to do Saturday right, we need the perfect ingredients, she used to say. I used to think it was adorable, even when it annoyed me. I got the strawberries from that overpriced organic shop near the food court. Picked through them to find the ripest ones because I knew she'd notice if I didn't. The basil came from a kiosk with more succulence than herbs, and the bread. Well, that bread. Warm, crusty, just out of the oven. The guy behind the counter even winked when I grabbed it. She's a lucky lady, he said. Yeah. That's what I thought too. By the time I jogged back to our place, bags bouncing against my side, sun finally peeking over the treetops, I was sweating and smiling like a fool. The kind of stupid grin you wear when you're convinced you're doing something right. You think, yeah, this is what it's supposed to feel like. This is what stability looks like. I nudged the front door open with my shoulder, half expecting to hear music playing. Brooke always put something on when she cooked. Fleetwood Mac, sometimes Lana Del Rey if she was in a dramatic mood. I expected the smell of coffee, maybe even her singing off-key in the kitchen, because she never did know the words right. But the house was quiet. Not peaceful quiet, dead quiet. I stood in the entryway for a moment, listening. No footsteps upstairs. No kettle whistling. No sound of pans clanking or water running. Just this stillness. I set the bags down on the counter and started calling out. Brooke. Nothing. I figured maybe she was in the shower or still sleeping, but the silence felt too heavy, like it was pressing in around me. I walked toward the kitchen, still in my sneakers, the hardwood creaking beneath my steps. And that's when I saw the note. A single piece of paper, torn from a notepad, folded in half and left on the edge of the kitchen table. My name, Trevor, was scribbled across the front in her rushed, lazy handwriting. Something about the way the ink bled into the paper made my stomach flip. I opened it slowly, suddenly aware of how hard my heart was pounding. Left with Madison. Don't wait. That was it. 7 words. 7 words that made the room tilt sideways. At first, I just stared at it, like my brain refused to register what I was reading. I must have read it 5 or 6 times. Left with Madison. Don't wait. Was she joking? Some kind of twisted prank? Madison? That couldn't be right. Because 3 weeks ago, I drove Madison to the airport. I helped her drag 2 enormous suitcases down 3 flights of stairs. I remember because she joked that I was the best unpaid Uber driver she'd ever had. We hugged at the terminal. She cried. I told her we'd visit soon. I watched her plane take off from the parking garage rooftop. She was moving to Arizona. A new job. A new apartment. A whole new life. So why the hell was Brooke claiming she left with her? I pulled out my phone, fingers trembling, and opened Brooke's texts. Nothing recent. Just the messages from last night. Something about watching a new baking show together, her reminding me to get the groceries, a heart emoji. Nothing weird. Nothing suspicious. But then I opened Madison's contact. I hadn't texted her since she landed. I scrolled up and found the last message I sent. Glad you made it safe. Send pics of the new place. No reply. I didn't think much of it at the time. Madison wasn't exactly great at keeping in touch. But now it felt like a missing piece. I stared at that note like it might rearrange itself if I looked long enough. Left with Madison. Felt like reading a code. I stood there in the kitchen, still in my sweaty running clothes, and suddenly the sunlight pouring through the window felt too bright, too sharp. I started walking through the house, slowly, room by room, like I needed to see that she was gone before I could believe it. Our bedroom was empty, the bed still made. Her side of the closet, half empty, a few pairs of shoes missing. The maroon duffel bag she always used for weekend trips, gone. In the bathroom, her toothbrush was gone. Her hairbrush, the one with all the strands still tangled in the bristles, wasn't on the counter. I opened the drawer. Her makeup was still there, but the expensive stuff, foundation, concealer, the little compact she never traveled without, those were missing. Back in the living room, I noticed the charger was gone from her side of the couch. Even the stupid lavender candle she always lit when we watched TV was missing. It hit me then. This wasn't a coffee run or a walk to the farmer's market. She'd packed. She'd planned this. I sank down into the armchair, hers, technically, because she was the one who'd picked it out after 3 weeks of debating aesthetic versus comfort. My body felt heavy, like my bones had turned to cement. I stared at the note in my hand. Read it again. Tried to imagine her writing it. Did she cry when she wrote this? Did she hesitate? Or did she just scribble it down and walk out without looking back? I sat like that for a long time, barely moving. My phone buzzed a few times, nothing from her. Just a weather alert, a spam call, and a group text from the guys asking if we were still on for poker night. I didn't answer. Eventually, I stood up, grabbed the bags from the counter, and emptied them out one by one. The strawberries sat in their little plastic carton like they had no idea they were part of some cruel joke. The basil wilted slightly in my hand. I broke off a leaf and rubbed it between my fingers, just for the scent. For a second, it almost grounded me. I broke the bread in half and stared at it. Fluffy, warm, perfect, just like she liked it. But she wasn't here. She hadn't waited. And somewhere she was with Madison, who either never left or came back without a word. Neither option made sense. And both made my stomach churn. I looked at the clock. 9:42 a.m. And for the first time in a long time, I had no idea where my wife was. Or who she really was. Looking back, I hate how long I ignored it. At first, I chalked everything up to stress. Work had been brutal for both of us. I was pulling double shifts, and Brooke had just gotten promoted to some lead design role that came with more money and even more anxiety. So when things felt off between us, I just assumed it was life creeping in around the edges. But I should have known. The first sign was the couch. She started falling asleep out there almost every other night, curled up under the throw blanket we got in Asheville, with the TV still softly buzzing in the background. I'd come downstairs at midnight, half asleep, and find her there, phone in hand or sometimes cradled to her chest. She always said the same thing. I was just too tired to move. I'd laugh, kiss her forehead, and carry her upstairs like it was some rom-com cliché. But after a while, she stopped letting me do that. I'd nudge her awake, and she'd mutter, "No, I'm fine. Just let me sleep here tonight." No kiss, no smile, just a wall. Then came the phone. It never left her side. Ever. She used to be so careless with it. Leaving it on the charger in the kitchen overnight, forgetting it on the coffee table, screen lighting up with notifications from her friends. But suddenly it was always with her. On silent. Screen face down. She even brought it into the shower, tucked in her towel or perched on the sink like it needed to be supervised. And when it buzzed, she'd glance at it with this look, like dread, or maybe guilt. One night, I woke up around 2 a.m. The bed was cold on her side. I figured she was just grabbing a drink, but when I padded into the kitchen, there she was, standing in the dark, hunched over her phone with her bathrobe half open like she'd gotten out of the shower and just never finished getting dressed. The screen lit up her face in that eerie blue glow, and when I walked in, she jumped like I'd caught her stealing. She quickly turned the screen off. Couldn't sleep, she said. Was just checking Pinterest. At 2 a.m.? In the dark? Wearing nothing but a robe? It didn't sit right, but I let it go. I wanted to believe her. Then there was the time she called me by another man's name. We were eating dinner, some kind of creamy pasta she liked to make when she was in a good mood. We were laughing about something dumb I said, and she smiled and said, "You're such a dork, Caleb." I froze. She knew instantly. Her face drained of color. The fork clinked against her plate as she set it down, eyes wide like a deer caught in headlights. Wait, what? I asked. She laughed. Too hard. Oh my God. I meant Trevor. Sorry. I was reading a book earlier, and that was the main character's name. It just slipped. But it didn't feel like a book slip. Felt practiced. Like the lie was ready before the excuse even formed. After that, I started paying attention. She'd started wearing new lingerie. Stuff she didn't show me, didn't mention, and didn't wear around me. I found it by accident, buried under some sweaters in a drawer she never used. Tags still on. One was a lacy bodysuit in deep red. She hated red. Always said it clashed with her skin tone. Then came the gym nights. Brooke was never a gym rat. She liked long walks, YouTube yoga, and the occasional spin class when her friend Lena dragged her out. But suddenly, she was obsessed. 2 or 3 times a week, she'd head out in leggings and a hoodie, claiming she just needed to burn some tension. But when she got back, she looked put together. Fresh makeup, smooth hair, lips with a gloss I didn't recognize. And there was this faint scent. Definitely not sweat or deodorant. It was cologne. Not hers. Not mine. Something spicy and unfamiliar. One time I noticed her car seat had been pushed all the way back. I mean all the way. She's barely 5 feet 4 inches. Her legs couldn't reach the pedals like that. When I asked her about it, she said she was adjusting it to clean the floor mat. Sure. At night. In the dark. After working out. Lena, her best friend, slipped up around that time too. We were chatting at a barbecue, and she casually said, "So you guys went to Redstone on Friday?" Huh? I love their sangria. I blinked. Redstone? Yeah. Brooke said you guys had dinner there. I nodded slowly. Right? Friday. But Friday night, Brooke had told me she was working late at the studio, prepping for a pitch. I didn't correct Lena. I just filed it away. And once you start filing things, it gets harder and harder to pretend they don't add up. Even our cat, Pickle, started avoiding her. He used to curl up in her lap every night like clockwork. But now, he'd sit at my feet or slink off under the couch when she came in. Animals know. I don't care what anyone says. There was a weekend I tried to surprise her with a cabin getaway. Just the 2 of us. I found this beautiful little spot near the lake. Even booked the same place we stayed at for our anniversary 2 years ago. I brought it up over dinner, expecting excitement. But she barely looked up from her phone. I can't, she mumbled. Too much going on at work. It wasn't even a real excuse. Just an easy out. And from that point on, it felt like she was always pulling away. Dodging kisses. Recoiling from touch. Everything became not now. Too tired. Or maybe later. I started feeling like a stranger in my own relationship. And yet, I didn't want to believe it. I kept clinging to the version of Brooke I knew. The woman who used to sing to herself while chopping vegetables. Who made playlists for road trips and laughed so hard she snorted. Who'd wrap her arms around me at random and whisper, "You're my home." But that woman was fading fast. And in her place was someone distracted. Secretive. Distant. The tipping point came on a random Thursday. I came home early from work. Unannounced. I wanted to surprise her with takeout from that Thai place she loved. I walked in and found her on the phone. She didn't hear me come in. She was standing in the living room, facing the window, phone pressed to her ear. "No, I don't think he suspects anything," she said quietly. "He's not the type. He trusts me." I froze. My stomach flipped. She laughed softly, like someone had said something flirty on the other end. "You're terrible," she whispered, almost playfully. Then she turned and saw me. I've never seen her face fall so fast. She hung up instantly. "Hey," she said, voice too high. "I didn't hear you come in." "Who was that?" I asked, setting the food on the table. "Just Lena," she said. "She's going through it again with her boyfriend." I didn't respond. I just looked at her. And for the first time, she looked away first. That was the moment I knew. I didn't have proof. Not yet. But something was happening. And it was standing right in front of me. in the skin of the woman I thought I loved. I didn't sleep the night after I caught that phone call. I laid in bed staring at the ceiling, trying to calm my thoughts, but my brain wouldn't shut up. Every moment we'd ever shared suddenly felt fragile, like it could shatter under the weight of one more suspicion. I replayed the phone call again and again. He trusts me. Those words looped in my head like a skipping record. She was right. I did trust her. That's what hurt the most. Around 3 a.m., I got up. I couldn't lie next to her, pretending to sleep, pretending that everything was fine. I walked barefoot across the hardwood floor, stepped into the kitchen, and stared at the note still folded on the fridge. I hadn't thrown it away. Couldn't. It sat there like evidence in a trial I wasn't ready to face. That's when I remembered her old phone. Months ago, she upgraded to the new iPhone. Said her old one was glitching, battery barely holding a charge. She told me she was going to wipe it and sell it back to the carrier for store credit. But she never did. I saw it once, buried in the drawer of our office desk, tangled between charging cables and random paperwork. At the time, I didn't think anything of it. Now, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I opened the drawer quietly, heart thudding like I was breaking into someone else's house. There it was. Silver case, tiny crack in the corner. Still holding onto secrets. I pressed the power button. Turned on. That was my first jolt of panic. Why hadn't she wiped it? It went straight to the lock screen, and I stared at the passcode keypad. 4 digits. And I knew it. Her go-to was our anniversary, 0723. I tapped it in. It opened. The phone lit up like a time capsule, full of things she'd apparently never deleted. Photos, texts, apps. And her Instagram still logged in. I didn't want to be the guy who snoops. I never wanted to be that guy. But this wasn't curiosity. This wasn't paranoia. This was survival. I opened her messages and started scrolling. Most of them were old, mundane. Group chats. Spam from delivery apps. But one thread stood out. A name I didn't recognize. Marcus. Just Marcus. No emoji. No last name. No contact photo. I tapped it, and my whole body turned to ice. The chat was full. Not like a one-off conversation or a friendly exchange. I'm talking daily texts, long threads, photos, flirty emojis, inside jokes I didn't understand. Some were innocent on the surface, talking about books, restaurants, music. But then it got more personal. Way more personal. You wore that dress just for me? Didn't you? Can't stop thinking about Sunday night. God. You looked so good across from me. That dress should be illegal. Same bar, same drink, same us. Attached was a selfie. Brooke, in a black dress I had never seen before. Full glam. Her hair curled, lipstick perfect. Smiling in a way I hadn't seen her smile in months. The timestamp was from 3 Saturdays ago. That was the night she told me she was having a girls' night. I'd made popcorn and queued up a movie we never watched. She came home tipsy, giggling, said she lost track of time because the girls got deep into some wine therapy. She lied right to my face. There was another picture, a photo of 2 cocktails on a marble bar. The caption read, "Harborview's still our spot, kiss mark." Harborview wasn't just any bar. It was our place. I took her there on our second date. We celebrated her job promotion there. I held her hand for the first time on those red leather bar stools. Now she was making new memories with someone else. My hands trembled as I kept scrolling. There were older messages. They went back months. This wasn't some random fling. This was an affair. An entire parallel life unfolding beneath my nose. And it wasn't just emotional. That became clear fast. Last night was, damn, I still feel you on my skin. Next time, no interruptions. Just us. All night. You're amazing. I don't even feel guilty anymore. I wanted to throw the phone across the room. I wanted to punch a hole in the drywall. But I couldn't move. I just sat there, paralyzed, staring into a window I was never supposed to see. I wasn't even mad yet. I was numb. How do you process that the person you built your life around, your routines, your rituals, your memories, had been living a separate existence, one that didn't include you? My eyes burned. Not from tears, just exhaustion. from trying to make sense of what I was reading, from trying to connect this version of Brooke, the woman in these messages, to the one who still shared my bed. She was never just distracted, never just tired. She was elsewhere, with someone else. The part that wrecked me most was how familiar they were. Their texts didn't sound like a new fling. They sounded comfortable, like they had routines of their own. Places, catchphrases, code words, rituals, just like we used to have. They had inside jokes. They shared music. He sent her songs that reminded him of her. She sent heart emojis. She never sent those to me. My breath started catching in my throat. I had to stand up, had to move, but my legs felt disconnected from the rest of me. I staggered to the kitchen and grabbed the edge of the counter to keep myself steady. The fridge was still humming. The bread I bought her yesterday was still sitting untouched. I laughed. Not because it was funny, because I couldn't believe how far gone everything really was. I had been chasing ghosts, trying to hold together a version of our relationship that had already rotted from the inside out. I pulled out my phone, opened up our camera roll. I scrolled back to the week that dress photo was taken, the black one from the selfie with Marcus. There was nothing on our end. No photos, no date night, no dinner. Just a blank spot in time where Brooke had told me she was too swamped to go out. It all lined up. I felt sick. I sat down on the cold tile floor, back against the cabinets, and let my head fall back against the wood. I wasn't crying. I was past that point. Felt more like grief. Not for Brooke, but for the life I thought I had. The version of reality I'd been living in. That life was gone. It didn't end with the note on the kitchen table. It ended months ago, maybe longer, when she stopped looking at me the way she used to. I just hadn't caught up to the ending yet. I don't know what came over me. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was spite. Or maybe I just wanted to look her in the eye one more time before everything crashed for good. Whatever it was, I found myself pulling the ring out of the drawer in my closet. The one I'd hidden months earlier when things between us had started to crack. Back then, I kept convincing myself we'd get through it. That whatever this weird, cold phase was, it would pass. That Brooke would come back to me. That drawer used to be full of hope. Now it just held a box I couldn't stand to look at. I opened it anyway. There it was, simple, elegant, rose gold with a tiny diamond shaped like a teardrop. I spent weeks picking it out. I remembered pacing that jewelry store like a kid about to flunk a test. I even had it engraved. Still us. That was what we used to say when things felt overwhelming. Still us. After fights, after stressful holidays, even after she lost her job for 3 months and we had to survive off ramen and hope. Still us. I guess at some point she stopped believing it. I almost left the ring there. Almost slammed the drawer shut and walked away from the entire idea. But something about that night, the setup, the perfect veneer of celebration she was building, lit a fuse inside me. Her birthday dinner. It was being hosted at a place called Lake House Graywood, some picturesque country estate turned boutique restaurant/event space. The kind of place with candles in mason jars, live string duos, and balsamic drizzle on everything. Lena helped organize it, of course. Just a small dinner, she told me. Close friends, good food, nothing too over the top. I almost didn't go, but I needed to see it for myself. I needed to stop living in the shadows of suspicion. I needed it to end in daylight with nothing left unsaid. So I put on my suit. I wrapped the ring in a linen napkin and tucked it in my jacket pocket like a bomb. And I drove out there, trying to keep my hands from shaking on the wheel. When I walked in, the party was already in full swing. Soft music played under the hum of polite laughter and clinking glasses. There were string lights overhead, draped over wooden beams. Long tables with sprigs of rosemary tied to the menus. Candles. The works. Brooke stood near the center of the room, glowing. She wore a navy dress that hugged her frame like it had been designed for this night. Her makeup flawless. Her laugh polished. She looked like the woman I fell in love with, and I hated her for it. As I moved through the room, people greeted me with nods and tight smiles. A few awkward hugs. Some avoided eye contact altogether, because they knew. Maybe not the details. Maybe not about Marcus. But people feel tension. They feel when something in a marriage is dying, even if they pretend not to see it. Then I saw him. Marcus. I knew it was him instantly. He sat at the end of the table, wearing a light gray blazer, hair perfectly styled, sipping a glass of wine like he belonged there. He wasn't listed on the guest list Brooke had emailed me. But there he was, smiling, confident, too comfortable. Our eyes met. I didn't look away. He did. I didn't confront him. I didn't cause a scene. I just walked to my seat, settled in, and waited. Let her have her little kingdom for a moment longer. Dinner began. Toasts were made. People laughed. They passed plates of fig salad and truffle risotto. Brooke smiled like a politician up for re-election. Every time someone brought up her design work, her eyes lit up. Not once did she look at me like she used to, and not once did she acknowledge Marcus. But she glanced. That small, secret glance. The kind you give someone when you think no one's watching. I was watching, and then dessert came. A small, artfully arranged mousse in a glass dish, berries, whipped cream, something caramelized on top. That's when I did it. I pulled out the ring box, opened it under the table, and with one calm, deliberate motion, dropped it ring and all right into her dessert. It made the tiniest splash. Silence fell. She stared at the dish. At first, she didn't understand what she was seeing. Then recognition bloomed across her face like a bruise. Her lips parted, but no sound came. I didn't say a word. I just looked at her. And in that moment, so quiet you could hear the flicker of the candlelight, she turned to Marcus and kissed him, right there, in front of everyone. It wasn't a dramatic movie kiss. It was quiet, defiant, almost grateful. My heart didn't break in that moment. It had already broken. I stood up, buttoned my jacket, and I walked out. No one stopped me. No one said a word. I think they knew it was over. I didn't turn back to look at her, because the moment she kissed him, after everything, she made her choice. Not just about love. Not even about cheating. She chose the lie, and I was done trying to live in it. I didn't know where I was driving. I just drove. Out of the gravel lot at Lake House Graywood, past rows of manicured hedges and string lights swaying in the breeze, back onto the main road with no destination. No GPS. No music. Just the sound of my own breathing and the tires grinding against the highway. The suit jacket started to feel like a costume. The dress shoes, stiff and wrong. I loosened the collar, took off the tie, and tossed it into the passenger seat. My phone buzzed a few times, but I didn't look. I knew it was her, or maybe Lena, or someone who was still back at the party, trying to patch together what had just happened. Let them try. Let them guess what that ring meant, what that kiss meant. Let Brooke sit there with berry mousse dripping down her birthday dessert and wonder if I'd ever look at her the same again. Spoiler, I wouldn't. I passed mile markers I didn't recognize. Strip malls blurred into gas stations, then into patches of empty road, trees flanking both sides like walls closing in. By the time the sun dipped low, the sky bruising with twilight, I found myself near a place called Fletcher, some forgotten on the map off Highway 41. I wasn't even thinking about stopping until I saw the neon sign. It buzzed erratically, one of the letters half dead. Reading emendorial, like a ghost had tried to spell regret in fluorescent light. It looked cheap, seedy maybe, but in that moment it looked like relief. I pulled into the gravel lot. Dust kicked up behind me. The air smelled like gasoline and pine needles. The guy behind the counter didn't ask questions. He slid a key across the desk with a half smile, said, "Room 12, far end," and handed me a tiny bottle of hand sanitizer with the motel's logo on it. An outdated attempt at charm, I guess. Room 12 had yellow siding and a crooked number plate. I unlocked the door, stepped inside, and was hit with that unmistakable blend of stale air freshener and something moldy underneath. It was the kind of smell that couldn't be cleaned away, like it had soaked into the walls years ago and refused to leave. I didn't turn on the TV, didn't even bother checking if it worked. I tossed the key on the nightstand, sat on the edge of the bed, and stared at the wallpaper. Faded peach flowers on a cream background. It reminded me of the wallpaper in my grandmother's house, which somehow made everything worse. There's this thing no one talks about, when grief doesn't hit you like a tidal wave, but creeps in slowly. A steady leak, a crack in the dam. I sat there fully dressed, shoes still on, staring at a burn mark on the carpet shaped vaguely like a footprint, and I just unraveled. Not all at once. Not dramatically. Not like in the movies where the guy punches a wall or throws a lamp. It was quieter than that. My heart didn't pound. It stopped. Or that's what it felt like. Like I wasn't inside my body anymore. Just floating somewhere above it. Watching a man in a wrinkled suit sit motionless on a motel bed while the world moved on without him. I reached for my phone, but didn't unlock it. Just held it in my hand, thinking of the messages waiting. The excuses. The half apologies. Maybe even the rage. Brooke wasn't the type to feel shame. She'd rewrite the story before admitting guilt. I set the phone down, face down like she always did. The room didn't feel safe. It didn't feel like anything. But at least it wasn't home. And that's when it hit me. I didn't have a home anymore. Not the kind that mattered. Not the kind that feels like someone knowing your coffee order or laughing at your dumb impressions or watching you sleep in late on Sundays. All of that was gone. I'd built my life around a woman who had been building a separate life on the side, and I didn't even see it happening. That kind of betrayal doesn't feel like fire. It feels like absence. Like realizing the warmth you thought you had was just a memory. I laid back on the bed without pulling back the covers. My head hit the pillow, stiff and over-bleached, and I stared at the popcorn ceiling until my eyes burned. No music, no thoughts. Just this ringing in my ears, like something screaming from the inside. And I realized I wasn't angry, not in that moment. I was just gone. A hollow echo of the man who drove to a country estate with a ring in his pocket, still hoping to salvage something worth saving. I closed my eyes, and for the first time since everything started falling apart, I didn't feel anything at all. The next morning I drove back, not for her but for closure. She wasn't home. Just silence. I moved through the house like a ghost, deleting her Netflix profile, canceling her Spotify subscription, removing her from calendar reminders I once made with love. I wasn't angry. I was efficient. She texted me, "You got it all wrong. It happened just once." I was drunk. But at 8:34 a.m., the truth landed. It wasn't serious. That one broke something in me. Not because it hurt, but because it showed me who she really was. No apology, just control. She wanted to reshape the story, keep me tethered. But I didn't text back. I let her words hang there, meaningless. The past was gone. What mattered now was taking it back piece by piece, and not letting her rewrite what she burned down. I moved into the guest room, took down the framed photos, boxed up the memories. Started drinking black coffee, no cinnamon, no oat milk, no her. I stopped playing the playlists she made. Ordered takeout I liked. The house started feeling different. Not emptier, cleaner. Lighter. Hers faded from it. One day, I walked into a cafe. A new one. No memories. Just good coffee and a quiet moment. I sat there alone and smiled. Not because I was healed, but because I was here. Present. Not stuck in the wreckage. Not chasing answers. Just living. And when I came home that night, it didn't feel like our house anymore. Felt like mine.